All right, so today we are going to talk about improving fertility, PCOS, and uterine health with vaginal steaming. So some of you might have heard this called different names. It's been circulating online lately, but under a bunch of different names. So you might have heard yoni steaming, steam baths, V-steams. All of those are basically talking about the same thing. And I find myself recommending this a lot. I think like the last 10 people I've talked to, they needed to do steaming, and so I realized it was time to start doing some videos so that you guys can get this information too. So do me a favor and comment below if you have ever heard of steaming, yes or no. Do a comment in the comments. Let me know if you have ever heard of this. I'm really curious where everyone is. Some of you might already be doing this. Some of you might have been doing this for years already. Some of you, this is probably a brand new idea. So I'm really curious. Okay, and if you just happen to find my video, if this is the first time you're hearing from me, I'm Molly. I'm the nutritional therapy practitioner over at parsleyandpumpkins.com, where I help women balance their hormones so that they can have easy, pain-free periods and get pregnant naturally. Okay. So I think the best way to really explain why vaginal steaming is helpful is to talk about all of the other ways that we already use steam for health. There's actually a lot of them. Some of you might be surprised. So a big one is that we use steam when we're sick, right? You stand over a pot of hot water, you breathe in that steam, and that hot water and air helps to loosen up whatever gunk is stuck in there from your sickness, right? So if you're super congested, doing the whole towel over your head so you create this steamy environment and you're breathing that in can really help to loosen up the stuff in your sinuses so that you can breathe. Another way that we use steaming is when we go to the spa, right? If you're doing a facial, sometimes they'll do an actual steam. Sometimes they'll just put a really hot, damp towel on your face. You can actually do this at home before you wash your face, and it's amazing. And it just steams your skin, and the steam helps to open up your pores so that you get a much deeper clean. Going to the sauna, right? Everyone loves going to the sauna. This is a whole body steam to help detox. It helps your body to release the stuff that you no longer need, so you sweat it all out. So the benefits of vaginal steaming are really the same thing if you think about it. It helps to release old residue. It helps to clear away any built up mucus. It helps to increase circulation. The same reason that we use it for all these other things when we're sick, when we go to the spa, it also helps for your whole reproductive system. So the uterus really is supposed to be a self-cleaning organ, right? All of our organs kind of do their own thing. They're supposed to be able to operate on their own, do what they're supposed to do. And our uterus is supposed to clean itself out every month. But like all of our organs these days, it can use some support too. And steaming is a way that we can do that. So I learned steaming from Kelly Garza. You can find her over at steamychick.com, especially for any of my practitioner friends or herbalists. Go check out her website. She has some awesome courses that you can do. So Kelly has worked with over 700 women doing steams for various reasons, short cycles, postpartum, all of this stuff. And she has even found steaming to be helpful for things like fibroids and blocked tubes. These conditions where we have a lot of stuff in the uterus, steaming can really help to bring it all out so that you're getting a full cleanse every single month. So you might be wondering, if steaming is so powerful for women's health, why have you never heard of this before? Okay, so the thing is, it's new for us, but it's not new in general. So you and I have never heard of it. Most people in America have never heard of it, but women around the world have actually been using this for thousands of years. There's actually this really incredible book. It's a textbook from Italy about gynecology. It's from like the Middle Ages, and it has a picture of a woman steaming on the cover in like old, you know, illuminated manuscript kind of design from the Middle Ages. There's a picture of a woman steaming. And what's really interesting is that it doesn't seem that one group of people created this idea and then spread it to the rest of the world. It seems that women discovered this on their own all over the world. How amazing is that? That's so cool. And this is really one of the ways that women used to take care of themselves before there was gynecology, right? Most of the things that we have now, if you have a gynecological problem, we have the pill, the birth control pill, or surgery. Those are pretty much the two routes that we have. But if you think about the timeline, the pill was only invented in like the 60s. Modern gynecological surgery has only been around since the 1800s. So what did women do before that? We used techniques like this, like vaginal steaming, as preventative measures, right? And so I always talk about with my fertility clients that women didn't used to wait until the very last minute to prepare for pregnancy. They were preparing for pregnancy. They were supporting their fertility. They were making sure that they were healthy their entire lives. They didn't wait for something to go wrong. And vaginal steaming was one of the ways that they do that. You do it every month as just to help yourself clean it out and help everything be as healthy as possible. Okay, so if this is making sense so far, type yes into the comments. Let me know if you are with me. And let me know if this is something you would ever consider trying. I'm really curious what you guys think. Okay, so how does steaming really help? If that's kind of the way that it works mechanically, right? We've got hot steam going up into all these little crevices to help pull everything down. How does it actually help with things like fertility, PCOS? So I actually think PCOS is a great example for this. Let's talk about that one. So PCOS is characterized by high testosterone and really long cycles. Those are kind of the two really big ones. The cysts are kind of secondary. You can actually have the cysts without having PCOS. So high testosterone and irregular cycles are those big ones. And I've done some videos before on why it's so important to find the root cause of your PCOS, and that definitely still holds true. Steaming is not going to fix your insulin resistance, right? It's not going to get to that root cause, but it is going to support your uterus as you are addressing the insulin resistance, as you're working on diet and nutrition. So what it will do is improve the health of your uterus because it helps to release that old residue. And when you have the very long cycles that are characteristic of PCOS, especially cycles where you're not ovulating, it's really common to have an estrogen and progesterone imbalance. So you might have seen it online as estrogen dominance. And it can be either you're just producing too much estrogen, so you have a ton of estrogen compared to progesterone, or it could just be normal levels, but your balance, your ratio between the two isn't quite enough. And so this means that those two things aren't in balance. And if you have too much of estrogen is a growth hormone, right? So one of the big things that it does during your cycle is help to grow your uterine lining. After you ovulate, estrogen, you get this nice little surge in the middle of your luteal phase. Even when progesterone is supposed to be dominating, you get this little burst of estrogen because it's a growth hormone. It helps your uterine lining to grow. And so if you're one of those women with PCOS where you have a cycle every 50 days, every 60 days. I've talked to women who have a cycle twice a year, so they're getting it every 6 months. You have this huge time span where you've got all this estrogen that is stimulating growth in the uterus. And so bringing in something like vaginal steaming, even while you're working on the root cause, you still have to get to that root cause, address the insulin resistance, whatever it is. The steaming can help to pull everything out once you do finally have a period, so you can kind of prime yourself. There have even been a fair number of reports of women who haven't had a period for a long time, and steaming can help stimulate that so that maybe you don't have to go quite as long in between them. So that's kind of how it helps fertility. It helps you really start fresh every single cycle. That seems really basic. It doesn't seem like a big exciting idea. It seems like something our body should just do on its own, but it is so important when you are trying to conceive that you're fully releasing everything so that you start fresh, right? If you think about the reason we have a period in the first place is because the egg cannot implant and grow well in an old lining. That's why we have to rebuild it every single month. And so it's so important to make sure you're fully releasing everything so that you can actually start fresh. Okay, and so vaginal steaming really is a great practice for women in general. So if you don't have a health problem and you're listening to this, I don't want you to think you have to wait until there's something going on or something that you're trying to solve. You can absolutely still benefit from steaming just as a preventative measure to make sure you are as healthy as possible. So, but there are some signs that would indicate that you might get some extra benefit from steaming. So I just want to go through those real quick. Okay, so any signs of old residue is a sign that vaginal steaming can probably be very helpful for you. So brown or black blood, whether you see it during your cycle or you get some brown spotting before or after, if you see it at all during your cycle, steaming is going to be really beneficial for you. Really long periods where you're bleeding for 7 days or longer is a sign that something is going on there. Your body's having a hard time releasing, and so it's dragging on for days on end. And so steaming beforehand, we'll talk about contraindications in a minute for when you shouldn't steam, and your period is one of those times. But doing this beforehand can help your body to prepare so that when you do get your period, you can just get rid of everything and it's not dragging on for days on end. Nobody wants that. Really heavy cramping. This is a big indicator that there is extra stuff in there that needs to be released. So a period cramp essentially is the same or very similar mechanism as labor, those contractions where you're getting something out of your uterus. And so if you're having these really heavy cramps every month, that can also be a sign that you've got old residue in there, that your body's just having a hard time really releasing. So that's a big indicator. Things like fibroids, cysts, blocked tubes, this can help with those. It's not going to be an overnight thing, but again, this is a preventative kind of supporting your menstrual cycle, supporting your health. And so making this part of your routine is a way to address some of these issues more long term. Having really long cycles. So we kind of talked about long periods, but also the long cycles. If it's 36 days or longer, especially if it's on the super long end, steaming, and especially with the right herbs, not just any herbs, but the right ones, can be really helpful. And the same thing is true for short cycles. Infections, if you're prone to infection, steaming can help. Fertility, if you're just trying to support your fertility, and menstrual cycle health in general. So even if you don't have something you're trying to solve, if you just want to support an already healthy menstrual cycle, including steaming in your just self-care routine can be really helpful in that vein. Okay, so this leads to a good question. Is there any reason that you shouldn't steam? And yes, actually, there are a couple of times when you don't want to steam, when it's maybe not a very good idea. So the big one for everyone who watches my videos, most of you, pretty much all of you, are working on your hormone health. I would say the majority of you are currently trying to conceive as well. And so you do not want to steam after ovulation when you have been trying. So once you know you've ovulated and there's been insemination, you don't want to steam. Just in case it was successful, we don't want to disturb anything that's happening in there. So pretty much during the 2-week wait, if you are trying to conceive, steaming is not a great idea. And during pregnancy, you don't want to steam. So all three of those, the reason here is that once you do conceive, you will develop a mucus plug in your cervix that kind of keeps everything walled off, right? So no bacteria can get in, nothing like that. And so steaming can help remove gunk. It can help remove fibroids and blocked tubes and all this old residue. And so you don't want to do anything that's going to disturb that mucus plug. So that's kind of the why behind it for those of you who like that info. So anytime that there's fresh blood, you don't want to steam. So if you're on your period, don't do it. There's already stuff going on. The heat is just it can just make it heavier. And so that's not a great time to do it. And if you are the kind of person who gets spotting during ovulation, that's probably not a good day either. So just anytime that you see the fresh red blood, skip the steam. Now that's just for fresh blood. So if you do get any of that brown or black spotting, if you've got some brown spotting before your cycle, if you haven't seen any fresh blood yet, that's probably still a safe day to go ahead and steam to prepare your body to help release everything. Current infections. So steaming is great as a preventative measure for infections, for kind of ongoing care. But if you are in the middle of a flare-up, that heat is just going to exacerbate things. You don't want to do it in the middle of an infection. Okay, so that is kind of the basic rundown of what steaming is, how it helps with fertility, when you should and shouldn't give it a try. So steaming is really easy. You can set it up at home. You don't need to go to a spa. You don't really need much, fancy equipment for it. And it's very pleasant. It's, you're taking your lady bits to the spa. It's like going to a sauna. It's very, very nice. And when you're doing it at home, you can control the heat. You can control how long you're doing this. So you can make sure that everything is totally enjoyable. So I wrote a big blog post that gives even more detail. If you are interested in trying steaming, check out that post just to make sure that you're covering your bases and you can go about this with full confidence. And if you do have something you're working on, if you are working on improving fertility, PCOS, fibroids, if you have the really long or short cycles and you're working on that, you can do a consult with me and get some specific recommendations. So we can talk about the herbs, how long to steam, any of those little details that can just help you address what you're actually trying to address. So you can find that over at parsleyandpumpkins.com, and I'm happy to help you with that. And if you enjoyed this video, please click that like button below. Consider subscribing to my channel for a new video every single Monday, all about supporting your hormones, having a healthy menstrual cycle, and supporting your fertility so that you can get pregnant naturally and have a healthy family. And for more information about vaginal steaming, or if you want to buy your very own steam stool to do this at home, or if you want instructions on making your own steam stool, head over to parsleyandpumpkins.com. I'll see you there.